All right, beginning our NHL 2024 draft rankings with number 80, a name you may be familiar with, Miroslav Chatan Jr. Yes, his old man played 1,000 games in the league. Yes, he won the Stanley Cup with the 2009 Pittsburgh Penguins. Yes, he was a beast offensively. His son, 6'7", enormous frame, still a lot to grow into, only 190 pounds. And this kid, he's starting to get some traction in Slovakia, and the name, I think, is going to get him off the board a little bit earlier than he may otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, Ross, when you can get a 6'7" centerman in your prospect pipeline, that's definitely a good thing. We know better than anyone, actually, that the Ottawa Senators love drafting guys that have dads, uncles, grandparents, anyone with family history in the NHL they love looking at. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the two Miroslav Chatans, their junior and senior. I was a big Miroslav Chatan fan growing up, Ross. As you guys know, I was a Dominic Hasek fan first and then a hockey fan. So I followed the Buffalo Sabres team very closely, and this guy was lighting it up back then. So if his son can carve out a career even close to his dad, things are looking pretty good.
Well, his dad was a 111th overall pick, so I wanted to ask you, do you think that Chatan Jr. goes in the top 111? He's only ranked by NHL Central Scouting. I just wanted to get him in at number 80 because, like you, I was a big fan of the dad growing up. I was a big fan of Slovak hockey players. Yeah. My good buddy Libor was living across the street, the ambassador's son to Slovakia, so it helped. Ottawa had Marian Hossa. It helped Ed Zdeno Chara back then, two legends in Slovak hockey. But Chatan, post-career, the elder, he is the president of the Slovak Hockey Federation. So he is still very involved in the game. With Slovan Bratislava, the J20 Slovak League team, Miroslav Chatan Jr. with 30 points in 26 games, a plus 14 rating, 20 penalty minutes as well. You think this kid's going to go in the top 4 rounds? I think that's probably around the range where I would have him.
Yeah, well, Ross, as we mentioned, we have 7 entities of scouts that we use. He was not ranked by any of them. So that gives you an idea kind of where he is on most people's radars. But he was ranked 51st in NHL Central Scouting among EU skaters. So he's clearly on the map, at least in European prospects world. Ross, I'm going to go ahead and say Miroslav Chatan gets drafted 111th overall. That's my prediction.
I like that. Just right exactly where his old man got drafted.
Yeah, history repeats itself
once again. Now, our old friend Tony Ferrari had a little write-up on him as he went into the World Under-18 Championships. He ultimately had 4 points in 7 games. They're all assists, but mentioning that he skates well for his size, but seeing him against the best players in his age group is a whole other level than what he's used to playing in the Slovak U20. So, it's all about which team's going to fall in love with a 6'7" forward with some scoring touch. I mean, that's what's going to come down to for Chatan Jr. This is an organizational depth type piece, at least at the beginning. But as we've seen time and time again, there is something to be said, and Ottawa fans would know best with the bloodlines and having a guy whose father's been able or is able to kind of help guide the son off the ice as much as on the ice about what the life as a pro hockey player is like. So I think at the very least, you're going to get a decent AHL player out of this guy. And I just feel like, why would the Buffalo Sabres, who have such a stacked prospect pool, why would they not just take a swing on having like a legend of the organization's son in the mix?
Yeah, it would be great. Although, Ross, as I was trying to find highlights for Chatan Jr., obviously Chatan Sr.'s highlights kept coming up. And one of his biggest goals ever was in his final season in the NHL with the Boston Bruins, double overtime playoff goal up against the Buffalo Sabres. That was when the Sabres had that yellow slug as their jersey. So that I thought that was kind of ironic. And the thing too, Ross, with scouting players that their dads are NHL players is, and you mentioned it, the off-ice stuff, but it's them having that mindset of being a hockey player is my plan A for a career. You know, like that's all they've seen. Like they're watching their dad, like that's what they do. Like I feel like a lot of these players, they don't even have ideas of anything else they want to do. They're like, no, I'm going to be a hockey player like my dad. Okay, what are you gonna if that doesn't work out? What are you going to do? No, I'm going to be a hockey player. Like they're so focused
One
on their
track
goal.
mind.
Yeah, they're on track. They don't have any other kind of career distractions getting in their way, and they're able to have advice from someone that's lived through it. So I think there's a lot to be said about this next wave of generations that are sons of hockey dads.
He plays center. He's tied for the tallest player skater in the draft. There's a couple goalies who may be around there, but him and Anton Silyev, the big Russian defenseman, are the only 6'7" skaters in the draft. So you're getting kind of a unicorn from that sense. And again, none of our 7 entities ranked him. So we've got an NA there. He's the only player in our rankings that has a not available average rank among our scouts, but he's still coming in at number 80 on our draft rankings. Any final thoughts on Miroslav Chatan Jr.? Do you want to take a stab at what team will take a swing? Because I've got Buffalo.
Yeah, Buffalo's definitely a good option. I mean, his dad was originally drafted by the Oilers, I believe.
Yes,
So
he was.
so maybe the Oilers take a look here, Ross. I put in my notes a team with some Slovak ties would go for him, or that have heavy scouting in that area would go for him. And I'm going to keep this going, Ross. I think it's a good exercise here. For each prospect, I have a 5-star rating. If I think the Sens should take a look at him. For Chatan Jr., I gave 3 out of 5 stars. So that's like an average. I think they should be interested. Shouldn't go too hard. Shouldn't fully count them off, but right there in the middle.
And they've also got 3, if not 4, 4th-round picks, depending on what happens with Florida in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So you can take a big in height swing if you want with Miroslav Chatan Jr., who comes in at number 80 on our 2024 NHL draft rankings.